Good morning, everyone out there. Happy Monday to you folks. Before I get started today, as always, let me check my lives to make sure we're all good. Good morning, Facebook. What's up, Facebook? All right, Facebook is here. Shout yourself out on Facebook if you're listening to me on Facebook. LinkedIn. So for those of you who don't know, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I go live on 3 platforms. Okay, it's LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So Facebook is here. All right, we're good on LinkedIn. Let me check YouTube real quick, and then we'll get this party started. Right. We got a lot to talk about today. A lot, to the point where I'm probably going to have to break down this whole thing into, I'm going to have to break it down into 2 episodes. So expect this one today and probably Wednesday too, because the thing that we're going to be breaking down today is all about culture. It's all about understanding the culture. It's all about understanding how important culture is and how important it is to build a legacy, and how we actually measure success, and how success isn't measured necessarily in the right now. Success needs to be measured in what you're providing, what you're showing, what your subordinates, what the people who were underneath you, who have learned from you, how they're doing. We're going to dive into all that. So before I get on to the topic, let me introduce myself to any new listeners. As one Crookshank here, former Division I college football player and current 5-time published author and speaker. And what I do is I basically take the lessons that I learned from the football field and I apply them to business, more in particular, the teamwork lessons, the lessons on teamwork, which is what I've created. I created a whole brand, a whole philosophy, a whole way of thinking in terms of innovative teamwork, and taking, again, like I mentioned, what you do on the football field, the teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field, and applying them to business. And it is such an incredible time of year for me. And to be 100% honest with you, it's always a great time, because you're always going to see that correlation. You're always going to see the parallels between the team sports, whether it is football, whether it is basketball, whatever, sport is going on at that particular time. You're going to see a connection between what is happening on these sports fields and these athletic teams, and how teamwork lessons are being shown, and how you as a business owner needs to be thinking of ways in which you can apply it to your business. That is what we do over here in the Move Swiftly world. So before I get into all of that today, let me get through some announcements real quick. First and foremost, if you are in the West Palm Beach area, if you're located in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in free boxing lessons, I do provide those. I do those every 2 weeks, as you see on the screen, Saturdays at 9 a.m. Just hit that QR code or message me if you are interested in hearing more. Again, these are free boxing lessons that you need to be taking advantage of, because it's a skill that you need, that it will be incredibly beneficial for you to learn in any kind of way. And we had a session this weekend. It was great. A great husband and a wife. Shout out to Troy and Anita for coming out. It was great. So looking forward to building that out as we get into the new year. Next thing, business owners. Listen to me very closely. freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Again, I am the host of the #1 show on innovative teamwork. If you go to the Move Swiftly podcast, you don't even have to look up Move Swiftly podcast. You can go to your podcast app right now and look up innovative teamwork. You're going to see my show as the #1 show. What I've done is I've created a free guide with just 10 steps in which you can use innovative teamwork right now to reduce the turnover in your business. Trust me when I tell you, I have a ton of experience dealing with turnover and the ways to avoid it, and how you as a business owner can set the tone to avoid a lot of the mistakes that people make. I have a ton of experience in that I would probably spend a whole hour on if I was to get started on that. So going to move on to the next announcement. Patreon.com. Tap into the Patreon link, patreon.com/as144. We've officially opened up the Patreon link. We have preseason. We have something for everybody. We have preseason, regular season, and postseason, depending on where you are in your business. Be sure to tap into one of those tiers and we will move forward. All right. So here we are. Let's kick off the show, baby. So Monday morning, as regular listeners know, here's what I do every single Monday morning. I've been doing it for the past, I'd say month. About a month now, You guys can go check my receipts on that. But every single Monday, I started off with something that I call a make your move kickoff question. And normally the question is based on some current events, based on what I viewed throughout the weekend, some of the highlights that I had this weekend. Again, as a person there in this time of year, I'm really consumed with the college football world because it provides so much incredible content for me to come and speak about. The question for today is, do you prefer the traditional telecast or the field pass? Let me break this down a little bit for you guys. All right, let me break it down for you a little bit, because I was watching the thriller in the SEC championship game. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a Michigan fan, a diehard Michigan fan. But a couple weeks ago, as the playoffs were starting to take form, and I realized, hey, this ain't Michigan's year. We're having a rough year and all that. I made the pick. I got on camera, and again, you can go pull my receipts. I made the pick, and I said Georgia is going to be the national champions this year. All right. So I'm watching the SEC, and again, I made that pick not with a whole lot of confidence. I didn't really say it with my chest like that, but I just felt like, given the fact that it's really wide open, and as you can see, the teams are very evenly matched. When you look at those top three teams. I said, hey, Georgia, I feel like Georgia has the experience to get it done. So I'm watching the SEC championship game, and I was actually at a Duffy's. I was at a Duffy's, and, I'm around other Georgia. I was sitting next to a Georgia fan who was reminded of me of myself the week before when I was watching Michigan play Ohio State. She's like, just pacing, couldn't take it because the game was so intense for her. But Georgia pulled it out at the end. But I'm watching the game, and I noticed that there's two channels. So there's ESPN having their field pass, where they have a lot of the guys that work for SEC Network, and they're walking around the field, and they have their microphones, and they're giving you their thoughts of the game, and they're interviewing legends. You had Vince Young there, you had David Pollack, you had Matthew McConaughey, you had Tim Tebow. You had them, as you're watching the game, you see them interviewing the guys as they're watching. So it kind of puts you in this place where you feel like you were at the game. And I've been to enough football games to know that that's exactly what it's like when you're on the sideline and you have field pass and you're watching the game. So you had that option of watching the field pass, or you had the option of going to ABC and watching the traditional telecast, right? So the question today is, what was better for the viewers? What's better for the viewers? Is it the traditional telecast or the field pass? And I gave my answer to this question earlier today in the Move Swiftly Thought, which is, I personally enjoy the field pass, and it's because I've actually been in that situation. And if you haven't been in the situation where you're actually at a big game and you're on the sidelines watching a big game, and you're getting a chance to meet the alumni, or you're just catching up, it's an incredible experience. I think that between the SEC Network and the connection that they have with ESPN, I think they absolutely nailed it when it comes to the viewing, when it comes to the viewership experience, which is what the brand is all about, what the business is all about. It's the reason college football has become the powerhouse that it's become from a marketing standpoint, is because they make decisions, or at least we're talking about the big time programs, than the ones that you see succeeding year in and year out. You're making decisions that will cater to the fans. You're making decisions that'll make your alums feel like they're still at the school. So before I move on, let me just kind of paint the picture here for you. Let's say you were watching the SEC championship game from wherever you were, that you were from home, and you went to either Georgia or Texas, and you had the field pass, right? You were watching the field pass on ESPN. It made you feel like you were actually at the game. It made you feel like you're actually at the game. And that, in my opinion, it keeps people engaged. The folks that graduated years ago, the folks that are no longer part of the university that were in their heyday. Imagine being Ricky Williams, Heisman winning Texas running back. Imagine him watching the game from wherever it is he's watching it from the world. If he's watching it from the field pass, then it's like, wow, this feels like I'm back home. So that's my answer. Leave your answers. I put this question as a poll on my Instagram and on my YouTube channel as well. What was the better viewing? Was it the traditional telecast or was it the field pass? All right, so that's the Make Your Move kickoff question for the day. All right, so as far as today's topic, before I get into today's topic, as you guys can see, we're talking all about Bama being so the story when the college football playoff came out, right? And let me just break down what happened when everything was revealed. Almost instantly, and I watched it live. I watched the CFP show live. I was actually getting the news. I was at the car dealership and getting me a brand new Toyota Camry. I actually happened to be at the car dealership, but while I was waiting and all that, I'm looking on my phone, and the the CFP Selection show is on my phone, and I'm watching it, and I'm making sure things. And I happened to catch it right when they made the announcement that SMU was going to be in and Alabama was going to be out, and that was the major story. And the first person that got interviewed from that announcement was the one and only Nick Saban. All right. So we're going to get into that in a second. We're going to get into how, even though Bama's out, Saban is still actually winning. He's winning in a huge way because of the legacy he built. And there's a lot of things that we're going to be taking away from that as we move forward. Before I get into that, I want to give you my thoughts on this playoff system and how they got it, and all of the complaints and all the things that are back and forth. Because I said this last week. I said it last week that Georgia. I said it last week that this is so much better than the previous years that we've had it. All right. This is better than only having 4 teams. It's definitely a lot better than the BCS system. So the people that complain and that they're saying that it's a joke, I don't see how it's a joke. I just disagree with anybody who can complain about the way the committee got it. Now, the only caveat I might have is the fact that, they may have let too many teams in. But I think it's important that, look, the committee was in a no-win situation. You have to honor the fact that a team goes and wins their conference because this is them later in the year. Now, if you get a big win early, like the complaint is, or the conversation is kind of centered around, do you go with strength of schedule versus honoring the people that won their conference? Because obviously a year ago, Florida State wins their conference. They go undefeated, yet they let Alabama in the 14 playoffs. So I think this way it's a whole lot better because there's a solid balance of, hey, if you have a strong schedule and you're in the front of and you are ranked in a high place throughout the year and you maintain that and you go and win your conference, then you're in. But if you're an Alabama fan and you're complaining about the fact that you didn't get in, even though you lost to, even though you beat a Georgia, and a team like SMU didn't play anybody ranked or whatever it is, you can't lose to Oklahoma and expect to be it. You can't lose to damn Vanderbilt and expect to be in. That's the issue. So, I think that they got it right. And the fact that when you win your conference, you see an opportunity to be in, I think that that's the best way to do it because that needs to hold some credence. It really needs to hold some credence. It is not an easy thing. I don't care what the conference is or what you say about the SEC. And I know everyone likes to talk about how great the SEC is, and I get it. It's a great conference, and they play teams. The teams are incredibly hard to beat, but they're human. They're human. I mean, they're football players. At the end of the day, it's football, and you never know who's gonna win. So if you win your conference, I do believe that you should be in. I do believe that it holds credence in a great way. And there's 12 teams. If you do win the games that you're supposed to win, like if Alabama won the games that they were supposed to win, like the Vanderbilts and the Oklahomas, then they would have been in, plain and simple. So, this noise about the strength of schedule and this one should be in, that one should be in. I think that's kind of a nonsense argument towards this, because it is important that you do win your conference. Winning your conference in college football is not an easy thing to do. Granted, the SEC is a tougher conference than most, but at the end of the day, winning your conference should be something that you hold credence to, should be something that gives you an opportunity to play. And you got to understand the timing. And this is my last point on this. The timing of when you win your conference is late in the year. When you're talking football, whether it's the NFL or whether it's college, whether it's youth, whether it's high school, the teams that are playing their best football in these months towards the end of November, getting into December, the folks that are playing their best football, those are the teams that deserve to be champions. Those are the teams that have persevered. Those are the teams that, injuries happen. This happens. They may have dealt with an early loss. They were able to be back and all that kind of stuff. When it comes to the teams that deserve to be in my opinion, they're playing their best football at this time of year. And those are the coaches that deserve to have an opportunity to play for a national championship. So that's just my take on it. That's just how I viewed the whole thing. So let's get into today's topic, which is, as you see on the screen, the story, and I brought that up because the story after the selection committee announced their picks for the 12-team playoffs, the immediate story was the first one out. All right, this is something that I think ESPN and the mainstream media actually does an incredible job of, because it obviously keeps people engaged, it keeps the ratings up, and it keeps people angry, it keeps the fans out. They're not going to announce the 12 teams. They're going to also announce, okay, here are the first 2 teams out, so we can debate it. It obviously pisses a lot of people off. It pisses a lot. In this year, in this situation, pisses a lot of people off in Alabama, and it pisses a lot of people off out here where I'm currently residing out here in South Florida. A lot of Miami and Alabama fans are really upset, and then the media just twists the knife a little bit. By also announcing, okay, these are the first 2 teams out. And they make that the story. But that's a conversation about the mainstream media that I don't have time to get into today. But anyway, so as you see on the screen, yes, Alabama's out, but Nick Saban is still winning. Let me just take you through my day on Saturday. All right, so what did I do before that? Yeah, so started the day off, and I had a boxing lesson. I had a boxing session. I had to train. Shout out to Anita and Troy. I did my boxing sessions, and then I went and got some quick to eat. It was something quick to eat. I mean, kind of the time just stood still because I was so motivated to watch college football all day. So I finished the session, I'd say around 9:30, 10, and the next 2 hours were kind of a blur because I was only concerned with getting somewhere and sitting my ass down at a Duffy's, a sports bar, and just watching some college football all day. And that's what happened. So I got there, and I was watching some College Game Day. So anyway, I was watching some College Game Day before the Arizona State and Iowa State game. So watched some College Game Day, and in this clip was playing, and the guys on College Game Day with Herb Street and Saban and McAfee and them boys, they were being their normal selves. And I'm looking at it, I'm seeing me as a potential person that could be on that kind of platform, and just talking ball with guys who just love them some college football. So as I'm watching, this clip came up. I can't remember if it came up on TV, if it came up on my YouTube feed, but it led to today's topic, where when you think of the idea of success, when you think of what success is all about, when you think of being a leader, this is something that you can look at Nick Saban, and we're gonna talk a lot about Nick Saban today. But you can look at Nick Saban, whether you like him or you dislike him, wherever your feelings are about him, you can draw some motivation from this moment right here. I'm going to play you this clip. Go ahead.
Kind enough to join us on the morning of the game. Guys, I want to start with this. When you play in a rematch, how do you balance maybe some adjustments you want to make as opposed to anticipating what adjustments they might make?
I think that's a great question. I don't think you overthink it. I think you try to do simple better. Block tackle is what it comes down to. Everybody wants to make it about the scheme, but a lot of times it comes down to the players, not the scheme.
No, I think hit the nail on the head. You know, we always use the analogy. We never want to get paralysis by analysis. You overanalyze, then your players aren't performing the way they can play. So take in the information, then you try to prepare them to go play.
Yeah, well, I think they're both bullshitting us, but...
By the way, exactly. If you're contributing to the swear jars at home, that's 2 for Nick so far.
You know, I'll play you that because as you think about being an owner and being a leader and being someone that obviously has had a ton of success like Nick Saban, and you ask yourself, how does a person get there? How does a person achieve that? How does a person even aspire? How does the person even aspire to develop that kind of success? And you think about the fact that, hey, 2 of his assistants, you have one in Kirby Smart, who was a defensive coordinator for him, and you had the other, and I couldn't play the rest of it. He goes in, the reason he said that they were bullshitting us was because they coached underneath him and all that. But you have your defensive coordinator, and you have your former defensive coordinator in Kirby Smart, and you have your former offensive coordinator in Steve Sarkisian, and they're getting ready to play in the biggest game of the day. And you knew how they prepared. You knew, you were part of the process in getting them where they are. In my opinion, that is a real success. That is real success. Real success is not measured in how many championships Nick Saban has won. All right. I am not going to subscribe to that. I will never subscribe to that. I think his legacy and his success, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because as you go about building your business, as you go about making your decisions on who you're going to bring in, your mindset, or even the decision that you make from day to day, the decisions that you have when it comes to the people that are currently working for you, the decisions in terms of the services you offer, the decisions that you make in terms of the kind of clients that you want to bring into your community, the decisions that you make in terms of the products that you are going to create, whatever it is you attach your name to, whatever it is you attach what you're trying to do to, whether it's the students, whether it's an employee, whether it's a family member, it's a young family member that's coming up, your whole mindset needs to be exactly what we just witnessed. Your former colleagues, again, his defensive coordinator in Kirby Smart, his former offensive coordinator in Steve Sarkisian, they're both getting ready to play in the biggest game of the day. And when you really look at the grand scheme of things, they provided an incredible view, an incredible game in that Texas and Georgia game, which the game could have gone either way. And in my opinion, it's probably going to be the national championship. But if you look at the number 1 team, which is Oregon, that's Dan Lanning, who also was a graduate assistant at Alabama in 2015. Then he went on to become a defensive coordinator underneath Kirby Smart. And you see these same folks going down the same coaching tree. That's real success, folks. That is real success. Real success is about creating a culture, creating a situation in which the people who are underneath you are going to thrive. This is why this year's theme is, how are you going to thrive in 2025? Is because when you look at the ripple effect that Nick Saban has had on the greatest game in the world, which is college football, you start to realize that the success that he has per se isn't necessarily about one individual. It's not. And the mistake that I see a lot of business owners make on a day-to-day, and I'm talking about every single day in every situation that I've ever been a part of, I see them making this mistake of making the business all about themselves and trying to do everything themselves, as opposed to taking that energy and applying it and starting to ask yourself, all right, who am I building up? Who am I raising? Who is underneath me that's going to make it so if God forbid something happened to me today and I have to move on from my business, I have to retire, I have to do something else, something comes up, life comes up. Do the people underneath me, have I given them everything that they need in order to make themselves a success. That's real leadership. All right. So I have a few clips I'm going to play for you guys, and it really is about culture. All right. It's really about culture. And one of the things that it's important for you to understand when you're planning and when you're hoping to achieve this level of success is that you will not be liked. It has to be burning from the hell with being liked. The hell with it. I mean that. The hell with being liked. You can't be in a situation where you want to have friends or you want to be liked and you want to create a culture that's quote unquote comfortable for people. You have to make people completely uncomfortable, and you have to create a culture. You have to create a culture in which people are walking in their businesses. They're walking in every single day, and they're trying to get better. They know that if I take one slip, if I take one day, if I take one moment where I'm not thriving to be the best, all right, that one moment can cost me so much. So I'm going to play you a couple of clips in terms of, because I think it was a couple of years, it was, close to 10 years ago now, when it was Notre Dame. Notre Dame walked into a national championship. I like that. I'm a Michigan, like I said, diehard Michigan fan. But that year that Notre Dame was the number one seed, and it was the year that Manti Te'o was up for the Heisman. They walked into the national championship as the number one seed. This was back when Brian Kelly was at Notre Dame. Anybody that knew college football knew, like, oh my God, they're about to get their ass kicked. And I hate to laugh at this, but when I say get their ass kicked, is because at this point, this was before we had the playoff system the way it is now, and there was the Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, and Rose Bowl, and all these major bowls like New Year's Six bowls, and then there was the national championship. So what happened was, it just so happened that year the SEC was just outside of its mind. I mean, teams were going down. Florida was beating this one, and then Tennessee won this, and then Georgia won this, and then you had LSU in the mix. You had all sorts of SEC. Like, the reason the SEC has so much cachet, per se, in my opinion, is that year that it just so happened that Notre Dame walked into the national championship as the number one seed, and then they got up against Alabama, and Alabama tore that ass up and down. Who was it? It was AJ. Is it AJ McCarron? Yeah, it was AJ McCarron that year. AJ McCarron was the quarterback for Alabama. Man, listen, that game, something had to change because you had the brand in Notre Dame as the number one team, and you had a Heisman candidate in Manti Te'o there, and there was a lot of like, okay, here we go, Notre Dame is back. They have it all, and the people don't like it because Notre Dame gets a lot of love from the media. They're one of the historic programs that built the sport into what it is today. So, the number one, you had the media going crazy, and it's like, the Rudies of the world, the Joe Montanas and all that, you had Lou Holtz, everything. And then Alabama goes and beats some ass, like straight up tear that ass up on the field. So 60 minutes, and I say all that just to get to preference the clips I'm going to be playing for you in a second. 60 Minutes did an interview with Nick Saban. I'm gonna run you through a couple of these clips because I think they did a great job in getting people or getting viewers to understand what culture is all about. What culture is all about. And the reason 60 Minutes obviously has been around for years, but the reason 60 Minutes is as great as it always has been is because they give you an inside access that you as a viewer can take years and years down the line, lessons that you can take years and years down the line when we see these once in a lifetime type leaders, and we can start applying it to our businesses and applying it to the things that we're very passionate about. It doesn't just have to be football. So this was the first one that I pulled, and we're gonna talk about in a second once I play it. And then we have a few more in terms of how you can go about creating that culture in your business and how you can go about maintaining it over a period of time.
And everybody's got to buy into that standard, or you really can't have any team chemistry. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people.
All right, so I'm going to play it for you one more time because I forgot to actually tell you guys what he was asked. So he was asked before he made that, before he answered, he was asked, or before he made that statement, excuse me, he was asked, are you too hard on the players, or something like that? He was asked something along the lines of, you're too hard on them, or, you yell at them too much, or whatever it is. And this was the response that he gave.
And everybody's got to buy into that standard, or you really can't have any team chemistry. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people.
Two things from that. All right. Number one is chemistry and standards. Two words that if you take anything away from everything I'm talking about today, and in terms of how you can apply some of these major lessons that we see on the field to what it is you're doing, it's standards and chemistry. Say it with me, folks. Standards and chemistry. Raising your standards, raising exactly what it is you want out of your employees, raising the standard to the point where if you can't buy into this standard, meaning if you're not bringing in 10 to 15 leads a day, if you're not making your calls a day, if you're not bringing in the sales, if you're not teaching this one, if you don't have measurables, standards, there is no team chemistry. There's just a bunch of individuals out there floating and just hoping that they don't get fired. And that is not the culture you want. Trust me when I tell you, as an owner, you don't want to have a situation in which you have no standards, where you're just bringing people in for whatever reason because they graduated with this, or they have that certification, whatever the criteria is that the world puts out there. You need to set your own standards and hold folks accountable for meeting this standard every day, because what starts to happen is it's either you adapt or get the F word out. I'm working on my swearing now, but it's you adapt or get the F word out. All right. And when you have people who are forced to adapt under these extreme situations, under these extreme circumstances, under these extreme standards, and again, the standards could be, it's you as a business owner that you can create whatever standards you want. But if you have these standards and folks are forced to adapt, they start to trust each other more. They start to build that chemistry that he's referring to. And then people are going about the business that they're going about doing their business as if it is their business. All right. You get your regular employees, and this is why, we started today off with this question about better viewing field pass or traditional telecasts, because the field pass actually puts you in the game. And when you're talking about raising the standards and raising the chemistry in your business, now we're talking about, okay, we're going to build up the standard. We're going to hold everyone accountable to this standard. And the people we bring in are going to learn to adapt. And then we're able to move forward. You can't do that if you're constantly dealing with turnover. You can't do that if you're not establishing a certain way about holding yourself accountable, holding your business accountable. So again, I'm going to play you some more clips, but the main thing to take away, especially from that one, is when he says, let me play it for you.
And everybody's got to buy into that standard, or you really can't have any team chemistry. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people.
Bingo. All right. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. So you just got to ask yourself, this is the come to Jesus moment. Are you someone that wants to be a high achiever, or you simply want to be mediocre? Because it's going to be one of the two. The folks that like to stay mediocre, you're not going to like being around a person that wants to be a high achiever. It's just that simple. They're going to just start rubbing you. The work ethic and all the things that they do in order to make themselves better is just going to make that mediocre person incredibly, incredibly uncomfortable. All right, so let me play the next one.
Into Alabama's players. Late in last year's blowout win over Notre Dame in the championship game, McCarron and his center Barrett Jones called different plays at the line of scrimmage, both insisting they were right. A bizarre shoving match ensued on national TV. Saban loved it.
The game's probably won, and
it's 42 to 14.
They're still trying to get it right, which to me is the kind of pride and performance that you want in the players.
Can you see the critics saying, "Come on, coach, just take a breath, relax, enjoy the moment"?
I can see people saying that, but we're still coaching. We're trying to get them to do it right. I don't ever want the players to relax in a game.
Saban
process. Process. It's called process, folks. It's called falling in love with the process of what you're doing. You could take that story. You could take the story of Steve Jobs and Apple. You could take the story of Phil Knight and Nike. You could take Kevin Plank and Under Armour. You could take Oswald Cruikshank with the Move Swiftly brand. You could take whoever you want to take. It's the falling in love with the process to the point where you're up 42-14, and however that translates in your business. It could be you're up in a quarter. It could be your sales, or you're actually crushing it in the sales game. You're actually breaking out and doing, putting up numbers that you have never seen before. Your focus on the process, your focus on the next thing has to be so in tune. You got to be so in tune to that process that even when we're up, we're going to be even when we're up, we're trying to get it right. And that is what I mean when we're talking about Saban is still winning. The fact that Bama is out, the fact that it's even a story that Alabama's out, given who they lost to and how they lost to them, the fact that it's even a story is all them, in my opinion, still living in that standard that he created for so long. It got said on many of his the championship runs that he had for years. It got said by multiple people, like, I don't know if we're ever going to see a type of run like now. Again, this is college football, so everybody has their year. Myself being a Michigan fan, look, we had our year last year. We had our last 3 years, which is why I'm not too distraught in how bad things got this year. Just, what happens. Everybody has their year. You're not going to be the number one team. You're not going to be at the top every single year. We have yet to see, then I agree with that. I don't know if we're ever going to see a run like what we saw with the years that the Alabama Crimson Tide dominated the sport. And as you can see now, it wasn't just about one person. It wasn't. I know what the title says, and I know what I titled this live, but it wasn't just about one person. It was about a commitment to a process. And I'm going to translate this now to how you go about raising the standard in the mindset of a person. So Nick Saban, he grew up, he was the son of a coach, and his father started up a youth Pop Warner team. What the hell was the name of that? I think it was the Black Knights. So I'm going to play the clip in which he talks about in a second. But the point of me bringing it up is it was his father, in my opinion, and what makes his story so great and really resonate with me is the fact that he had a father who owned a business. My father is a small business owner too. And I got the opportunity to see him pay very close attention to detail, do his own taxes, run his own thing, wake up every single morning, go to work at a specific time, run his own business his way. I know the feeling of having a father who works for himself and makes sure, there were times where I have to cut the grass, right? And my father would look at me, even just cutting the grass, and just look at me and say, make sure you do a good job. If you got to go back and weed whack and like I had to cut the grass and then go after you cut all this grass in the summer. And then, you got to go get the weed whacker from the shed and make sure that's good. And, do fertilizer, all the yard work that I had to do. And then, during this time of year, there was fall. So I had to rake leaves and then pick out the sticks and do, the yard work with when I, growing up, the yard work and the things I would do with my father. There was also the climbing on trees and, cutting down branches, that there were certain things. So when it comes to being raised by a father who is a business owner, this is why Nick Saban's story resonates so much with me. But I'm going to play you this clip, and then we're going to translate this into how you can set an example for younger people, how you as an owner, whether you're the owner of a business or you're just a leader in general, teacher, coach, whatever it is, it's important that we make sure we set this example for young people. And that's how you achieve that long-term success that we strive to, that we should all be striving to have, and not just the infatuated, not just the success here and there. We want to make sure it's a long term. We want to make sure it's success going over the length of a couple of years. So I'm gonna play you this.
The answer lies on another football field in a small West Virginia mining town. Here, Saban's father, Nick Sr., started a Pop Warner team called the Black Diamonds. Today, the Black Diamonds are still playing on the same field. only it's now named for Nick Sr., a local legend. Nick remembers how his father's long demanding practices always ended on a hill in the back of the end zone.
And it was like a 3-level hill, and it's almost straight up. And we would line up at the bottom of that hill, and that was our conditioning. We'd have to sprint up that hill. And it was so dark, he couldn't tell whether you made it to the top. So there was a row of trees up there. You had to bring a leaf back to prove that you made it to the top.
Nick grew up in a coal camp with just 9 streets. His dad owned this service station down the road. Nick started working for him at age 11.
If we washed a car when I worked for him at the service station and it was not done exactly perfectly correctly, he would say, wash it again.
And you had a fear, as I understand, of certain cars.
The navy blue ones and black ones were really hard to keep the streaks out of. A single streak, you had to do the whole car over again.
Well, now we know where the attention to detail comes from.
That's where it comes from.
Nick thought he wanted to run a car dealership after playing football at Kent State. But while serving there as a graduate assistant coach in 1973, he told his dad that coaching was in his blood.
I said, I think this is really what I want to do. That was the last conversation we had, because he passed away the next weekend.
His dad was only 46. Saban began.
All right, so there's a lot there. All right, there's a ton of takeaways from that. Every time I've watched that, probably maybe 100 times since it came out. It's come out. Oh, it's been over 10 years since ago. But the fact that you're talking Pop Warner football and you're talking youth football with me, I could talk for hours on that. But when you talk about running hills every day, every night when I was growing up in Maryland, we lived on a hill. I would take sprints up hills, and my mother actually was the one who would make me go run hills, and really kind of pain. I talked about it in this book right here, where my mom would make me, she'd wake me up and make me go run the hills, and I would, be tired, and she'd wave this idea of me playing in the NFL around and say, if you're really trying to go to the league, then get your ass up and run these hills. So, when it comes to him and his father making it so he had to bring a leaf back from the hill, and also the point about washing cars. Where your dad is making you wash cars the same way dad made me, I do remember washing cars, but also not do laundry, but cutting the grass and doing the weed whacking, and just the look on your old man's face when they're teaching you a lesson that you as a kid, you don't know why the hell you're doing it until you get older, and then you realize how much attention to detail how important it is to pay attention to these details, how important it is to have these details in your mind, and how much they actually did for you by making it so you do it the right way. That's what the world is missing, guys. That right there, everything he laid out is what the world is missing. And we are pushed in a direction. We are pushed in a direction in which we take a very selfish approach to life in general. All right. What we celebrate a kid going to college and getting a job that's paying them 6 figures. And I'm not saying on any of that there's anything wrong with that, but it's the way we emphasize the money. It's the way we value money and value status and value a corner office and value all the things that come with what the world has made success. We don't value enough just the traditional principles, the attention to detail, to making sure you are doing something and you're putting something out there in the world that's going to lead to a positive outcome for society. We more so celebrate folks who are making selfish moves, and it's hard for people to really make that transition. All right. So the next 2 clips I'm going to play you is very important, because in this particular world, and because of access and because of what social media has done to society and what we value, and the like button, and you like this one, and this one has this amount of followers, this one has this amount of views, and what we're constantly talking about, it has affected the way recruiting works. It has affected the way the college game is being recruited. And I thought that this was important, because I tell, for those of you who don't know, if it's your first time tuning in, I see more people coming in now. I started off. My first job out of college, I was a college scout. I was a college scout for a company named National Scouting Report, and every single day I'd be at a different practice, watching different sports. I'd be at a different camp, and I'm doing, and then I did some FBU stuff. So a lot of my work is wrapped up around the recruiting world. And whenever I have a conversation with a parent, I always send them this clip, and I tell them exactly what Nick Saban used to do whenever he was high on the kids. I'm going to play you this, and then we'll get into the next topic, and then I'll close you guys out.
Academic scholarships. At 62, Saban continues to coach as if his next paycheck is in doubt.
We can't go to the line on offense and stand there till the shot clock runs out, trying to figure out what the defense is going to do so we can call play.
Saban's idea of relaxation during the season? Watch more film. And no one is more relentless at evaluating recruits.
Is it true that if you really like a high school player, you will have every single play of his career put on tape?
And I watched that guy.
Every single play?
Every single play.
If you think Saban needs to get a life, well, you're not alone. But in a profession that is a minefield for couples, he's been married to his great...
So that one hit home. I played for Powerhouse Youth Football Program, played for Powerhouse High School Football Program, but the White Oak Warriors, the Youth Football Program, the Good Counsel Falcons, again, another legendary coach in Bob Malloy. And the thing about that transition from high school to college is you really don't realize how much you're being evaluated. All right. When you don't realize how major that transition actually is until you actually get there. So when you talk about how serious you take your job as a college coach, and for you to look at every single play, do you know how many plays that is? For you to look at every single play, and then you ask yourself, okay, how was he able to build up what he's built up at Bama? It goes right into that clip. And whenever I recruit a kid, and tons of kids out there, tons of young athletes out there that say they want to play college ball, and they think they got what it takes. They think they're quote unquote him. Tell them, hey, are you ready to be evaluated on every single thing you do? How you eat, how you walk, how you damn sleep. All right, what you're putting in your body, all of that matters. All right, so because I do a lot in the recruiting world, I'm going to play this. I'm going to play it for you one more time, just so you understand the realities of the situation.
Academic scholarships. At 62, Saban continues to coach as if his next paycheck is in doubt.
We can't go to the line on offense and stand there till the shot clock runs out, trying to figure out what the defense is going to do so we can call play.
Saban's idea of relaxation during the season? Watch more film. And no one is more relentless at evaluating recruits.
Is it true that if you really like a high school player, you will have every single play of his career put on tape?
And I watched that guy.
Every single play?
Every single play.
If you think Saban needs to get a life, well, you're not alone. But in a profession that is a minefield for couples, he's been married to his great...
All right, so final point in all of this, and you said a lot, I covered a lot. What should be happening in your mind if you've been here from the beginning, if you listened from the beginning, is that you got to accept the fact that you got to just come to a damn decision on, hey, do I want to be liked, or do I want to actually build a legacy? Do I actually want to be successful, really successful over a period of time? Or do I want to be liked, and do I want to have friends, or do I want to have a lot of people around me to be quote unquote cool, or be in some in crowd, or be in my comfort zone? Or do I want to get uncomfortable and take a risk and actually make a decision that will be scrutinized by a lot of people? However, I know in my heart that it's the right decision. Only you can answer that. I don't have those answers for you. Nobody does. All right. But what I can say, I'm going to close you guys out just with this principle, because it was about 8 years ago now. Crazy to think about. It's been about 8 years ago now, when I first moved out here to South Florida. There was two circumstances in which Nick Saban actually came up. It was when I first got out here, I was in St. Petersburg, which, by the way, I bought my tickets. I'm going to the Michigan-Alabama game in it's called the Real Quest Bowl. It used to be the Outback Bowl, I think it is. But they'll be playing my Michigan Wolverines will be playing in Tampa. They're going to be playing against Alabama. Coincidentally, they're going to be playing against Alabama in Tampa. So I bought my tickets yesterday. I'll be bringing in the new year in Tampa, wearing all my amazing blue gear. I got to get my amazing blue gear ready for that one, to see my Wolverines kick some Bama ass again this year. All right, to take care of business, handle business, because we ended the season on a high note, and I just feel like we got to keep that momentum going, baby. Keep that momentum rolling. So we're gonna take care of some business in Alabama, and I'm looking forward to that. And looking forward to spending the new year in Tampa. If you're in Tampa, make sure you hit me up. We're going to meet up and do some tailgating or whatever it is, especially if you're a Michigan fan. We definitely got a link out there. So, but anyway, when I first got out here, I was living in St. Petersburg, and I remember going to a coaching clinic in Tampa, and there was a coach who gave a speech. And he knew, obviously as a high school coach, he had a relationship with Nick Saban. And this was around the time. So this was around the time that Nick Saban had left the Dolphins to go to Alabama after saying that he wasn't. So there was a whole lot going on in Florida when it comes to Nick Saban. In fact, when I first got to South Florida, and I moved to South Florida to work for the Miami Dolphins Foundation, and I was around like diehard Dolphins fans. They would call the man Nick Saban. Called him Nick Saban because they saw him leave the Miami Dolphins, and then the success he had at Alabama. A lot of Dolphins fans took that really, really personal. So the coach that I met in Tampa, I think it was Tampa Plant or something like that. I can't remember the name of the high school that he coached, but he told this story about Nick Saban. And he was saying like, yo, Nick Saban called him one time, and he goes, hey, man, look, you might be the only friend I have in Florida right now. And then they went on to talk about some recruits and stuff like that and things of that nature. So anyway, he addressed that. And the reason I'm bringing this up about, him leaving the Dolphins and how that whole thing went down, because I was on the outside looking in. I was still living in Maryland at the time. And I didn't really realize how big of a deal it was, or I didn't think much of it. I'm a Redskins fan, so I didn't really care too much. I would have liked him to coach our team, But the Dolphins faithful, the way they took it so personally, I started to learn a lot about, just this concept of, hey, it's either you're going to make the best decision for you as a business owner and the decision that is right in your heart, or you're going to cater to the masses. You're going to cater to a group of people. You're going to cater to fans who have a biased view about what you need to be doing and how you need to be moving in your career. And, actually, let me play it for you, and then I'll close you guys out.
Outside the stadium.
Integrity.
Do you regret that, Nick?
Alabama made Saban its number one target. Saban uttered these words.
Well, then I guess I have to say it. I'm not going to be the Alabama coach.
Do you regret that, Nick, saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
You said flat out, I'm not going to Alabama.
I really, in the end, it affected my integrity as a person by saying one thing and doing something else.
Today in Alabama, Saban is treated like a god. He now has his own statue outside the stadium, a tribute to his national titles. Alabama has made him the highest paid coach in the game. Dr. Robert Witt, Alabama's chancellor.
The immediacy in which he answered that question, when they played the clip, and again, I've already talked about how great 60 Minutes does when they do their interviews and they do their research and how they bring it to the viewers. The immediacy in which he said, absolutely, he regrets doing that, or it affected his integrity, affected how people look at him from the outside looking in. I've had experiences like that. I tried to start up my own minor league football team in Ocean City and ended up losing everything, literally bankrupt, lost car, phone, everything got repossessed. I had a bunch of players that wanted to play minor league football, incredibly angry at me, just dirtying up my name, smearing my name all over. And when it comes to success, when it comes to actually winning and making the decision that you're going to have to make, you have to welcome that. You have to accept that. You're going to have to ask yourself a serious question now. I'm getting real with you now. I'm getting really heartfelt with you at this point. Is when you look at what it is you're wanting to do and how it is you want to move and how it is you want to be great, you got to ask yourself, hey, am I catering to the masses, or am I making a decision that I know in my heart time will tell it was the right decision to make? And it will rub some people the wrong way. It will make it so groups of people do not like you, but you have to have the conviction and you have to condition your mind that what you're doing and how you're moving about your day to day there's going to be an answer that makes sense, and there's going to be a place for you as you're making these decisions as a leader. All right. And I'll just close you out with the concept of leaders eat last. Leaders eat last, and leaders have to make the decision that's going to be best for a culture, best for a game, best for a group of people, and not just best for themselves. If we're going to use this example of Nick Saban, yes, I think obviously being a head coach in the National Football League is something that anybody in coaching would aspire to do, and it feeds his ego. However, he knew his heart was in the college game, and in fact, it's crazy because I wrote this book, it was transferring D1. I wrote this book a year ago now, and it was around that time where because it was around this time last year. It's Nick Saban and Coach Harbaugh, two of the best programs in college football in Michigan and Alabama, two of the best coaches, obviously have won a ton of games and have a great legacy behind them. Great. Just great in terms of what the sport tries to represent, family and all that. And again, I'll probably talk more about this on Wednesday when I dive into systems and all that good stuff. But it would have been good for Nick Saban's ego per se to stay in the NFL, because he could say he's an NFL head coach, but making the decision to go back to the college game where his heart obviously is, and where he can have the most of a positive impact on the game, is a decision that you're not making for selfish reasons. It actually turned out that the decision was for selfless reasons. And when you ask yourself as a business owner what the hell it is you're doing, how it is you're building your team, what are you going about doing when it comes to professional development, and how you help your staff, how you help the people underneath you, when you go about doing it the right way and you're going about doing it from a selfless place, eventually the result is going to be what we see the results have been as Nick Saban built out Alabama, what he's all about. So, all that being said, looking forward to diving more into this, man. I saw I got a lot of new people coming in. Let me check the chat real quick to see if I have any. All right, yeah, a lot of new people coming in as I was talking. This recording will be out on YouTube almost soon as in the next couple minutes here, as soon as I end the stream. And before I go, let me just remind everyone, if you want to tap in, if you like this content, if you like this whole concept of, using sports, using the game of football, particularly the innovative teamwork lessons, the teamwork lessons that it provides. If you like aligning that with your business, make sure you tap into the Patreon link. It's patreon.com/as144. Again, it's one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon. It's one Crookshank.